Hey now. So I have pushed the go live button. Just waiting to see if yeah, yeah, YouTube responds to it. And I see that it has, and it sounds like I have good sound. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining this stream or viewing this video after the fact. I had been on stream with Maddie all in last night, and I felt like I didn't do a really great job of explaining this chart set. So I thought I'd dig into it a little bit today and get into the details of exactly how it has been created. So yeah, thanks for joining. As always, I'll make the plea to hit like and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And if you get a chance, go check out what I'm doing over in the Patreon channel. It's been pretty interesting getting that thing started, and a big shout out to my most recent members, David, Sean, and Jay. So thanks for the support, and I really do appreciate it. So with that, let's pull up a chart. Yeah, so this is my first. This is my first attempt at doing a broadcast through StreamYard, um, that allows me to have interaction with the chat, which is a little bit different than when I'm on OBS, Red Squirrel, because on OBS it seems to be much more delayed, and I have a harder time kind of keeping track of everything. I'd be on different screens at the same time. I'll get there. I'll get there. Right, move around. Hey, so an exciting couple days here. Take a look at our hex price. Make that a little bit bigger for everybody. 533, 534. Pretty big number. Loving it. Of course, everybody likes it when your assets go up in value, right? So that's a happy thing. Remember, volatility is the name of the game. So we're going to see a lot of volatility in different directions. Notice that the liquidity is way low. I mean, it's all the way down to 40 million on the hex side, and that's something that's not the average or norm for us, right? And at least not recently. And we've gone all the way from something like 300 million hex down to 42 million. What does that mean? That means the liquidity is thinner in certain ranges. And I know a lot of the other guys are covering this on their channels. But with that thin liquidity, whatever direction the price is going can go pretty fast, up and down. So just be super aware of that. Um, it is what it is. I guess, yeah, I was joking around with the guys last night. I mean, if you're all staked up in Hex and you're not a trader, there's not much to do but watch. You just kind of watch what's happening and where things are going. So with that, let's take a look. Let's see what we got for viewers. I saw that we had a few people come in. Take a look. All right, all-time high, two at one time. I don't know if I count as one. I might I might count as a viewer. Let me switch this screen up. All right, so let me stop sharing this one. I'll go over to first. We're going to look at the charts themselves, high level, and then dig into how we actually calculated it. Now, some of you guys may know at Benazoid from the Hex chats. Great guy. He has he's been putting these charts out by hand for quite a while, and they're pretty cool. Hey, Marty, how are you, buddy? Um, it pretty cool charts showing the annualized inflation or deflation. And so, just saying this, like, what does that mean? Well, what we're doing is we are looking at the circulating supply, what is out in wallets, and how it's changing month over month. And like a lot of the stats, we haven't seen, I mean, we haven't seen a lot change in terms of what's available, or at least the inflation rate. So I guess it's going upwards because every time people mint new hex and they don't restake it, it does end up in that pile. But as far as the amount per month in terms of an annual percentage is it's fairly steady. I mean, yes, it goes up and down. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. Um, and that's highly dependent on restaking because if people are end staking to the tune of 5 or 6 billion per month, and that's because we know this because of the bow wave when you look at it, and then we move to the next month, and the bow wave being all those stakes that are stored up waiting to be ended in the next 30 days. You can see that on my chart. You can see that on Hextop Vision and several other places. So if all of that hex was staying liquid, I would expect these numbers to be much higher as far as the percentages. And so in this particular chart set, I worked with Ninad on this. That's at Venezuela, uh, because he had his charts and what he was putting together, and I thought this would be useful to us to review once in a while to maybe at least reassure ourselves what's happening in the system or to combat FUD that's out there. So one of the charts we have is the annualized hex supply inflations in this is since distribution phase. That's in percentage. So what is the month over month change since the beginning of what's out there? The second in this set is taking the hex that was used to calculate that, and we're going to get into the calculations in a minute, and reporting those. What's the difference in terms of hex month over month? And in this chart, this is in millions of hex. All right. And then the third is in dollars, taking the TWAP, which is the time weighted average price at the end of the month, the reporting day that I'm capturing this information, and multiplying that by the number of hex. All right, so in the previous. So why is annualized inflation important? Well, annualized inflation is basically we're capturing what the inflation is month over month, and then we're multiplying it by a factor to make it a yearly number, to make it a kind of an even playing field across all the measures. It tells you if there's a trend of more hex or a lot more hex being available to to be sold on the market or less. Now, it doesn't define what people will do with that, right? That's like a whole nother conversation, right? Because just because Hex is available in your wallet doesn't mean that you're actually selling it. It may be staked, it may be just held. And a lot of people, particularly in the trading arena, right? They're buying the rumor and selling the news. All right. So what's the big rumor right now? Well, perhaps we have at least shorter term traders are doing that. Perhaps we have V3 coming soon. Um, and then there's a whole level of people, maybe they don't believe that V3 is coming soon, but maybe they think enough other people believe that V3 is coming soon. And so the market will oscillate. So that's at least one level of this. At the medium and longer time frames for people who take bigger scalp trades or swing trade, they're looking to get in at a lower price and then possibly, capture some sort of profits later. So some are looking for that shorter time frame, but I think my experience has been with this, anyways, that a lot of the bigger players are waiting for longer time frames. So let's switch screens here. I'm going to head over to look at the data itself and how this was put together. So this is some raw data that we had started with, and it'll kind of explain how. we began capturing the this particular measure. All right, so fairly self-explanatory that we're looking at dates on the left-hand side, and that we basically snap the line at the first day of each month and say, okay, what is the hex circulating supply at that time? The data that's on the charts is being pulled from hex daily stats. So we grab those dates and, of course, the hex circulating supply, which is defined as hex that's not staked, and it is not the locked inflation or rewards that are in the contract. It's what's in people's wallets at that time. From that, what we're able to do is do simple calculations to say, okay, well, in this case, I'm looking at the first month that we had that measure listed here at 61%. We're looking at the December value minus, excuse me, the January value minus the December value divided by the January value. And that gives us a percentage of increase. And then to annualize that, and we do that for each month, each ensuing month, right? So we can figure out what the inflation is month over month. The annualize that, that's just simply multiplying that by 12. And then I'm not showing how I'm doing this, but I can tell you how I'm doing it. We have the TWAP. Now, what he had been doing previously is doing it by hand, snapping it on TradingView, just going there and looking at each month and recording it. So what I have done is I'm using, again, Hex Daily Stats to get that data at the end of the month. So we're using that value. And I also have the open, close, high, and low for hex that date included. So the way that looks is those four figures, the open, the close, the high, and the low added together divided by four to come up with some sort of a number that we can use for TWAP. And TWAP is the time weighted average price. So it's not a whole lot of time in there other than time of day. It seemed like that makes the most sense. We then multiply that by the um, amount of hex difference month over month, and that'll give us our dollars. Right. So we get that month over month amount, and then we get our dollars, multiplying it. And from that, what we're able to do is to populate a table that looks like this to be able to get that number. And then if we go look at the actual charts, the handwritten charts, you can just see they look very much like the ones that I have produced. So let me pause there. Let's see if we've got any questions that are coming up. You see, so I gotta play with the show, right? Yeah, look at that red squirrel. Now I can actually display when somebody puts something up. So that's one of the differences between some of these streaming softwares, right? Don't have that ability that I'm aware of within OBS, but I have it here. And I don't think I have the ability to do it when I actually stream with YouTube directly either, because there's at least three different ways, probably more, to be able to do this. Uh, and we got Marty. Hey, Marty. And then Naeem. Naeem, I think that's the right pronunciation. How you guys doing? So now I can actually go through them. Hey, any questions so far? I'll give it a few seconds here because I know that it may take a minute to catch up. I just realized that when we're describing it on screen, it's sometimes difficult for people to pick up on um, exactly how these are calculated and why it even matters. And as I mentioned, I'm kind of learning myself as far as this goes. This indicator might be used in conjunction, for instance, with looking at liquidity. looking at staking statistics. Wheels had a great video a few days ago, several days ago, where he was comparing the amount, where he was comparing the amount of hex that was staked versus the buys, the volume of buys for this price and price increase. And from his perspective, when he was looking at that, he was saying, "Hey, look, don't be surprised, guys, if the price doesn't stay up, because the people aren't walking the hex up. What they're doing is um, what they're doing is holding it in liquid in their wallet," which would kind of make sense at this juncture that some people are thinking that way. If they let's suppose that they already have their ladders filled and they're stakers, um, they might be waiting to do something with that hex once we have a launch, right? Um, so we may see that. I don't have, Naeem, I don't have, I think it's Naeem, but your pronunciation. I don't have that at the moment, but that'd be really cool metric to put together is some sort of, and we have the data, right? So we can do that and just kind of range it and say, how many days Hex has spent in this range or that range. That might be a pretty cool one. Because we typically, at least this is what I do. I'm not a TA guy, not able to really do that very well. But what I have some rudimentary stuff that I follow, and so one of the things I'll look for is exactly what you're saying. Is if we're on the price chart and I go look, I'll look to see where it looks like we had the most volume. So I'm eyeballing it, and we've had a tremendous amount of volume right around the 6 to 6.2 area, and that's 6.2 cents. So that looks to me to be like, and this is me just saying it, right? But likely resistance once we get up into higher fives. But it could also be true that maybe it doesn't end up being you know, end up being a resistance at all. We've seen that before. Yeah, Rusty, I think you might be right that it is 2 to 4. Again, I didn't look at it from that perspective, but of course, if you go back and I was thinking 6.2 is what might stop us from going up. But yeah, certainly that's possible as well. I can actually pull that chart up and we can see what we're looking at. So let me see if I can do that. Uh, Separate that out. Go to advanced chart. And let's present that guy. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Window trading view. Here we go. Let's see if you guys can see this. So if I shorten this up or bring it down a little bit, let me throw my auto on. Um, yeah, clearly, at least in recent months, we spent a good amount of time in kind of like this 2 to 4 range, right? Certainly back here now, in the last few months, we spent a lot of time in that kind of range. But previously, we didn't spend a lot of time in that range, you know. So uh, perhaps, I guess somebody who knows about this more would say, "Hey, listen, because there was such little time in the past that we spent in that range, that maybe." Because we spent so much in that range here while people were accumulating in the last few months, perhaps it acts more like a bottom or support than it does a resistance. Now, what I was getting at with the 6.2 is you look up here in this kind of area, it's kind of obscured from the chart. But if we look up here at this, I guess it's 5.2, which we're above. I was looking up in this area, I guess, when I was thinking about 6.2. So 6.3, 6.2. because I made it so big it kind of hampers it a little bit. Whoops. I did not sign up. All right. So you can see a little bit of pump, but it seems like once we get past this little bit of area, then perhaps price discovery up to the next level, which would be up to the 9 area. Again, I don't think I'm much of a TA guy, but I'll keep looking. I'll keep looking. Yep, me too. I look and try to figure out what's going on. Hexfire site for pulse chain. Don't know yet. Going to depend on the data and how it comes out. There are a lot of people working independently with Hex and the pulse chain data. Um, it's got to be done, I think, for us to be able to really know what data we're going to pull out. But here's the thing: is we do know the kind of data because we've had a lot of time to work with it now. I've had a lot of time to work with the data, so I do know what I need. And it's not as the data isn't as complex as the analysis and calculations. And so if we can simply get the data from the new system, then we should be able to replicate most things pretty quickly. Now, as far as it'll be a separate site, and I haven't really crossed that bridge yet, but I'm thinking either, some sort of a toggle or completely separate. And there might be a case for both, right? Some people want to see both on one screen, and that might be pretty cool as well. I mean, at some point, there's only so many things I can go do myself as far as reviewing data, right? And what I mean by that is, yes, I have, my 6 or 7 sites that I frequent to go get data, but it's a little tough to keep up on everything over time. And so then things begin to fall off the table, right? Um, Now that could be bad for me because if I'm not watching something I need to be watching, that might be problematic. So I think I do prefer, some sort of centralized dashboard that you could select different, we could select different chains from. And so there'll be that. And then I'm sure, again, like I said, I'm sure I would want to be able to see, much like the trading view, the prices of the assets on the same screen. I know the proof of work stuff hasn't been super popular, ETHW and ETHFair. But both of those, it's been a challenge. If you want to go look and play around with it, you can kind of get a feel for what I'm getting at with having too much. So, okay, most people, I think a lot of people are interested in Hex. I'm also interested in what's happening with the ETH price, and then the derivatives are interested in, let's just say, even if it's just Maxi and Hedron and Icosa. I mean, that's 5 or 6 of them. And just trying to keep track of all those prices on Deck Screener is a little bit problematic. Yeah, I have heard of Hexspace. I actually was on a panel with the gentleman, and I did go review the GitLab. I like that a lot, and that might be one of the options to be able to get the data from Pulse Chain. That might be what we're going to need to do. It really depends, right? A lot of the data that our ecosystem pulls today is either from people running nodes, right? So they run the node, so they've got to have that up and running and then be able to access it, or they're subscribing to a service that runs the node, which gives them access to the data, right? And then the third way the data is being pulled is through the graph, so a subgraph. I'm hoping that subgraph actually appears or something like it over on Pulse Chain because I find that to be the freest, most liberal way to get data. Um, And then, well, why do I say that? Well, you can actually just, provided you have the endpoints and you know what you're looking for, you can load that right into Excel using the Power Query and bring that data in. Yes, there's a couple hoops you got to run through because there's always a limit on these APIs on how much you can pull down. In terms of records, just like the 10,000 limit on Etherscan. If you try to bring more than that many records down, there's limitations. You have to handle that part of it, but you can do an awful lot even with some basic tools like Google Sheets or like I said with Excel. So another, so let's go back and look at these charts again. I think we already kind of dug into how the thing's calculated. I'd be interested in what you guys think about how how should we be using, these charts. I mean, what's actionable um, for us by knowing what the inflation is? I think for me personally, this certainly isn't like tactical, like right now you do X, Y, and Z because this happened. But I think for me, it's trending information, tell me over time what how much is coming out. I think later on, it's going to be quite interesting to see as we go into 27, 28, and 29 because we have so much that is coming out. Um, in terms of supply at that time. The estimates go up pretty high, so that would be pretty important. Right. So yes, again, just for recap, because I see we've about half the people who might be listening right now. I have Deb just joined in the last 10 minutes. We were going over how these numbers are calculated, and we're basically taking the circulating supply for each month, snapping that line at the first of each month, comparing it to the previous month, and coming up with either the increase or the decrease in circulating supply on a monthly basis. And then from that, what we're able to do is to make that a percentage, right? And then annualize it by multiplying by 12. And I think one of the sticking points is at a very high level. Most of us Hexicans, we've got the 3.69% inflation drilled into our heads pretty good, that's what the inflation rate is. But the second level of that and the more detailed story is all of that is not realized inflation. And even the portion that is realized may get restaked. In fact, something like 78, 80% getting restaked. And so then that means it's no longer part of that circulating supply. Pull up another chart over here. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. Let's see what we can see if I can answer them for you. I'll bring up Hexfire in a second here. So no big pumps, guys, while we're sitting here. Maybe. Maybe. Go ahead if you want to. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. So in terms of, let me see if this shows up okay on our screen. Okay, it's there. Yeah, in terms of what's happening with supply that's coming out, and perhaps this would be something to add to this. We have the estimated total supply chart here. Let me go into focus mode. I'll bring this guy up. Takes a few seconds to load because it's so much data. It's actually going to calculate all this. so it's going to give me a little bit of trouble bringing it up. But what it's doing is it's looking at all of the future stakes and what we think will be coming out. And we have some pretty big numbers. I have to look at the this one. See, I don't know why this anomaly might have shown up here. Um, I'll have to take a look at that and see why that's happened. But in general, you can see that we're expecting that the total supply to continue to rise, right? And so by total supply, what I'm getting at with this chart is the circulating supply from today plus the newly minted hex and hex coming out in stakes. So the estimated payout by day, and that going up and going up until we get into this 29 region. And clearly, I have to look at this to see if there's something that is off on the calculation because it really should just be a step straight up. But what's happening that time is we have a lot of stakes that are coming out that that will increase that supply, right? And that's I think not by accident. It's about 10 years from launch, right? It's about 10 years from launch. So that could be quite interesting to see what'll happen at that point. Max possible T-shares. Let's see if I can find it on here. I made some changes um, to how the site operates because I've been trying to curate it for more for like the newer folks, and I'm in the process of um, I'm in the process of updating a well, not updating a new one. I'm in the process of designing a new website and dashboard. Uh, so you may look at a lot of this stuff that I have up here, and it's kind of antiquated. Antiquated in that I designed it the way I was thinking about things. I wasn't taking into account the new the new way of doing things, new futuristic kind of versions. Um, so these are the charts that I had put together on the Max theoretical T-shares by date. And what that's all about, guys, and what allows me to do this is that we have the new share rate estimates going into the future, and we can look at those in a moment. Because we have those new estimates, and um, we know how what the supply should be in these time frames. What we're able to do is come up with a maximum theoretical T-share amount. And the maximum theoretical T-share amount is the amount of T-shares on a given date plus what would, how many T-shares could be created by staking all of the circulating supply at that point for Quattro Cinco in one single stake, maximizing all bonuses. And what it creates is this line, this downward line of what the max was. And, back in 21, it was 116, 117 million, all the way down to where we are today at about 80 million. And the maximum will continue to decrease over time. It'll decrease over time. And why is that important? It's a deflationary effect that puts pressure on the total T-shares because total T-shares were sitting around 10.2, so or 10.3. There's a lot of room, or I should say, if we go back in time, there was a lot of room back here. Big difference between 11 million and 116 million versus today, that it's narrowed 80 million to 10 million. So the difference is narrowed. And what you're seeing over here on the right is that narrowing. This is the difference between the two, the narrowing of those amounts. And so It's an illustration that you'll need a lot more hex to accomplish the same number of T-shares in the future as time goes by. And again, this is being driven by the fact that we have these calculations of potential circulating hex into the future, and even up to now, we know what the circulating hex was and the T-share rate. So it's pretty astronomical how that pressure will be applied, and that's good for stakers, right? So, and it kind of is kind of part of what we talk about getting in earlier on the T-shares. Hey, Slab Snap, nice to see you. Nice to see you. This is my favorite chart. Can't hide that. That's my unfortunately or fortunately, this is how I got into doing Hexfire, right? So we had last year we had, I had just unstaked one of my first stakes, and I was hemming and hawing about what to do. Yes, I could take my own advice, right? And the sooner you stake, the better. And I kind of illustrated that is I waited too long. I waited too long, right? And so because I was waiting around to figure out what I was going to do next, it was like right here as an example, T-share rate bounced up, boom, 700. And I was like, man, there's no way I couldn't have known that that was going to happen. I mean, there has to be some way to know that that happened. And at the time, I really didn't understand as much about how it's calculated and how a new one gets set. And so it was kind of fuzzy. Like, is this like an art? Is it a guess? Is it math? And what it turns out to be is really, really close to just math. I mean, certainly that's how I'm calculating these changes. And you can see we're fairly dead on, in terms of what the actual is versus the estimates as we go along. So that's been pretty cool. Um, Now I do some things in the past numbers to kind of keep this number nice and flat, but it's been very, very close. And so on the 9th of this month, which is tomorrow, there's a stake that'll end. And then on the 10th, that person may end that stake. And if they end that stake, the T-share rate will go up to 25,743. And that's it's only a 40, no, 40 hex increase, but it's very sure. So like I'd give this 99.99% that the number's right. And the reason for that is we're very close in days, right? So the closer we are to the actual ending of the stake, the more likely these predictions will be dead on. So the longer out, the tail will swing back and forth, go up and down a little bit, but not a lot. We have a lot. I've heard a lot of people talking about the 14th, and that we have some stakes coming out around that time. There's one I believe that the Godwill made, and surprisingly to most people, that will probably not increase the share rate because at the end of the day, the math calculation only cares that about itself. It doesn't care about what we're thinking that it should change it, right? So it just does it. And if the numbers aren't right, if there isn't enough yield that it creates a new share rate against others that are ending the same days, it just won't get any higher. But we do have a stake that's coming up on the 16th. That ends on the 16th. And that stake, right now, I would say that could be a 700 increase from where are we right now? So right now, actuals 25.7. It's about going from 25.7 to 26,452. So it's likely going to be a 700 hex increase. And we have the wallet, no, the wallet address. We know the stake in it, and to my knowledge, it's not the OA, and it's not Godwill. So what does that mean to me? Is I can go back and look at that stake and see exactly, who that person is and what they've been doing. So let's go do that. Go back to the home screen. I've only done a little bit of these markers, and what they'll do is they'll actually bring us into kind of a scatter plot. This scatter plot, the reason I set it up was just to show what I mean when I'm talking about all the stakes. So these are stakes that are all coming up to end, right? They're all coming up to end. And out of all of them, they're all pretty close to being around the same, right? And it's a gradual upslope, which represents, that 6 to 12 a day on average that we're kind of seeing in value. But then you have this one right here. Boom. Now this guy here is a stake, and this is the one that I would expect will increase it. And if somebody knows as if this address is God will, go ahead and let me know. Um, so I copied the value out. And so if this one single player does not end his stake and instead GAs it or does nothing, then we'll just continue on our merry way. And then, sometime in March, we'll hit the same number. But right now, that change only depends on this guy. So what can I do with this information? Well, I have the address. So let's go over to the staking data. And I'm going to drop the address into the wallet here for filters. Since this is a list filter, I've got two here. One, you can go with the native hex address, um, or you could use an HSI address in here, or you could just do the owner address. I'm just going to throw it in owner real quick and put the filter on, and we can actually see um, the open stakes that this wallet has. So let's go ahead and sort by stake end, and you can see you actually got two that are coming up. Another one on the 25th. This is ended no. And you can go take a look at this and see what's happening with it. All right. So this wallet has been pretty active. I mean, they just restaked on the 28th of January, and that's how they ended up with this particular one. So let's go see what they've done in the past. I'm going to go ahead and say, show me all their stakes, but then let's bring it down to just the ended ones and what have they done. So again, we're sorted earliest to latest on the stake. And we can see it looks like there's some sort of a test stake to see if they understood the system. Um, then they did yeah, right in a row, 50 million, 50 million, 16 million, 17 million. And as we scroll over, we can see that they were all ended, roughly on time. Get it on the screen so we can see it. So the stake end was the 17th. They ended on the 18th. Perfect. 16th, they ended it on the 17th. 16th, they ended it on the 17th. 22nd, they ended it on the 25th. A couple days, right? No penalty. The 26th, they ended it the 28th and then restaked. So I'm about 99% sure, I guess, on this, that this guy will turn around and end that stake. And by ending it, um, that'll create a situation. Let's see. Let's go to the chat, see what people got. Alan, you're never late, man. You can always look on it. You can always go back on YouTube, right? Yeah, Marty, I don't. We can actually go look at the address. If somebody wants to post the address, that was used. I don't know if it was the 666D address. Well, actually, we probably go find it. I'll show you how to do that without you guys getting it. Um, but but yeah, we can go look at that big one that's ending and see. Uh, bu- 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 Yep. Completion fails. Yes, I love the T-share, man. They call me Mr. T-share sometimes. So yeah, this is what we're talking about, the 1,000-day stake. Now, This stake that we were looking at, let's look at it, we'll see how long it was. So not ended, going back to not ended. I want to see the one that's going to end on the 16th. That's this one right here. It was 1,095 days. So again, I know people are talking about it, but I don't know that it's actually related to Godwill, this particular stake. I don't know that it's actually Godwill. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, that race chart video is pretty cool. I've been messing around with some animation yesterday. I spent way too much time on it. But I think I'm at the point that if somebody has an animation request for the charts, that I can make it happen. Where we can go and actually see day over day. May have to be shorter than day over day. Might have to be month over month. But how the price changes, how actually any of the stats we have change. Um, I get a kick out of that myself. You know, I remember when I couldn't animate things, right? That wasn't even possible. Uh, that was crazy. Um, all right, so we have a stake that's expected to end. So let me bring this down a little bit. We have a stake that's expected to end around the 14th of this month. So I'm going to clear my filters here so that we get everything. I'm just going to leave and not ended here. So it's just going to take a second to load up all the stakes. And so you can see these are all the stakes that are in the system, 427,000. We're fast approaching. These are the open ones. We've got a bunch that are closed. We're around 750,000 stakes total. So within maybe by the end of the year we'll be at 1 million. That's going to be a pretty exciting number. So the expected end. When do we expect to end? So let's do 25, 2023, and right before that, let's do two. Let's do 8, 2023. All right, so this will show us all the stakes that are currently open that are going to end in the next 17 days. And I'm easily entertained, I guess, but it always amazes me just how many stakes we have in the system. That we actually have 4,000 stakes that are coming out between that time frame. All right, and so now I want to see what the biggest ones are. So I have my estimated payout, which is the estimated total amount of yield plus the hex stake, and I'm just going to hit this little caret to sort it. And you see we have 2 billion coming out on the 13th. Okay. And then if I highlight that, that is indeed a known God whale address, which is 666D at the end. So that is a God whale address, and that is coming out. And a lot of times we just make assumptions. I mean, I've done this myself, right? You just make the assumption that that is going to do something to the system, and it does. I mean, it supports the system, it pushes it forward, but it isn't the leading. It isn't the leading. So if I go to Etherscan, let me grab that address real quickly. And so now I've got his address. So I'll show you my little, for testing, I leave some Easter eggs around. So I have this alpha button up here. I went to alpha and in God mode for staking, and I'm going to go ahead and put the address in here and turn the filter on, and we're going to look for God will addresses or God will stakes. And you see, Godwell's made quite a few stakes, 24 of them overall, and ended no. We'll say no. So these are Godwill's open stakes, and then I'll sort them downwards, or yeah, downwards for by date or upwards by date, um, so that we can see the 13th of January. Now this one's still open. I wonder if he G8'd it. We have to go look and see, right? Because I would have expected that to have been ended already. Maybe it's G8'd. It's 26 days late. We can go look at that as well and see what happened to it. Um, but the one we really want to look at is this one here. This one here. All right. And if we look at this, give it a little highlight. Let's increase the screen size a little bit. Scroll down. We can see all the stats on this guy, including the new share rate calculation. So let's see. What is the share rate today? The share rate today is 25,712. Um, so if no one else increases it by the before now and then, which is unlikely, I'm pretty sure it'll increase, then this stake may increase the share rate by a few, but it's not going to drive it over 26,000. It won't drive it over 26,000. Um, and that's because these are all just being calculated, as based on the data, and another stake or other stakes made before it and longer are going to outpace things. Yeah, it makes sense to me, Marty, that he does have these big stakes, though. I mean, um, he's feeding into the system just like everybody else, right? And for so my strategy in the beginning, and I think this still holds true, is I stake medium and long, which I consider medium to be kind of that 3 to 7 year range, and long. And the reason and people said to me, why'd you do the Quattrocincos? You don't know what's going to happen in 15 years. But I believe in the system, and to strengthen the system, I'm willing to do that because that's one way I think that we as users strengthen the hex system is by taking advantage of that. Now, also is to mitigate risk, right? You can balance your staking, medium and long and even short, because nobody knows what will happen in 15 years, right? So we don't know what things will look like then, but it's certainly a great thing to have out there. So yeah, he has a lot out there. Um, I mean, look at that. I mean, that's a 10x on this guy, more than 10x. It's 1,000%. He's gonna make some bank for sure. All right, so we have his address. Let's go to the advanced staking data real quick. We're going to go to the advanced staking data, and let's go see if he has any unclaimed stakes. I could do this a couple different ways. So unclaimed are stakes that are late, that have not been GA'd and haven't been ended. And I had it set at 100%, so I'm going to bring down the percent burned lower. So I don't see anything here, which leads me to believe it's been GA'd. Um, so let's go back and let's go look at good accounted stakes. Address filter on this one's a little bit different because I haven't updated it with the list functionality. Let's give it a second here so I try being too quick. And see if I've got a data error somewhere. Maybe. I see this. Turn off all my filters. Not ended. And for some reason I'm not getting them on this one. I don't show them as good accounted either. So are we too short in the number of days? No. No. So, well, what can I do? I can go look at the data in the background later to see, but let me go back over to my hex staking data to see what happened with this. Again, I'll put his address in here and hit the filter and then ended no. Yeah, maybe something got kind of messed up. Open up the range here. Uh, Yeah, maybe something's messed up with my data. But we can go check it a couple different ways in the background. Like we could actually go see what's happened with that stake. It'd be kind of cool. I could say it says GA. No, I'm not sure why it doesn't show up on my other panel. Um, but yeah, I guess let me check the chat, see if you guys have any comments. I'm not sure everybody wants to see me go dive into this thing. But again, what I could do is we already have his address open. So let's go take a look and see. So around the 13th of January, 23, we should have seen some sort of action. And I do see something. Let's change the date. But that's the 22nd. Yeah, I've got to go find out why that doesn't show up the way I would expect it to show up. Um, oh, I'm just being silly, I guess. Let's figure this out. All right. All right. So I know what it is. I know what it is. You know, that's where this system is so complicated sometimes. I mean, it's pretty cool. I love it. But boy, even though I look at this stuff all the time, I'm like, why doesn't it show up? I think I answered my own question. Um, so if I go back to, I'm going to go all the way back to this panel where we were looking at this. This is why, maybe. Um, well, maybe not. Still the 13th. It should be showing up my panel. I bet you I have some sort of days late weirdness going on that this stake is out there. I mean, clearly, unless somebody else could have counted it for him, which could have happened, a different wallet did it. Clearly, that would be a it would actually be bleeding at this point. So I can take that for some homework and go look at that. So I was thinking 26 days, but 26, it's really 15 days when they start bleeding. So someone, I'm guessing, has good account of this one. But I would have expected for it to show up, so I might have a data error somewhere and dig into it. All right. I see we got some more people that have joined us. Um, please post any comments that you might have or any questions while we're here. I mean, we're just about at an hour live. Happy to talk with you guys and kind of dig into some other things if you have a specific request. Um, I mean, we could actually go over a couple things. I think one of the items I have. Let me throw this up here. We'll talk about transaction tools so in the Patreon, I've started opening up some of the additional calculators and stuff, and trying to get those nailed down for people to be able to use. I haven't quite gotten to the point yet where I've collated into a new design. I put out this poll today in a couple different places to to kind of grab what people might want in a dashboard and try to build it. And what's happened, for those of you who don't know, right? So with Hexfire, I built that on my own time and expense, right? And that's fine. That's what I wanted to do, and I did it. Um, and we want to move, but I want to move forward with more stuff and more data. And so it costs a bit to maintain it and keep it up, right? Because I have to do the subscriptions and all that stuff. And so rather than making that a paywall, to get to the free site, I thought what I would do instead is open a Patreon. A couple people had recommended that, so I opened up the Patreon, and right now I just have it like low level support. Like, you want to support what we're doing with Hexfire, go ahead and do that. And in return, what I'm doing is providing additional um, perks and stuff and access to new things, including input on the design of Hexfire Pro. And what I would like to do is get, because everybody has like these different requirements and different needs. Like if you said to me, "Hey, can you get me a download of all this data?" I can do that, but I can't let you do it yourself the way the thing's set up, not without a license, which ends up being, 10, 12 bucks a month, something like that, for the software. And then you can go play in my software area. And there's probably a handful of people that would like that. So, but long term, what like to do is be able to fold this stuff together so that we can do a lot more with the data and the information, and that'll carry over to Pulse Chain. But to do that, I have to utilize these more expensive areas to bring the data together because they just prevent us from doing a lot of free stuff for people. I mean, that's how software is, right? It's all about seats, number of users and all that stuff. Um, Let me see, I'm jabbering. So let me share this screen. So a couple of the things that I've been working on that I like. What do I like? I like a lot of stuff. Let's go to this one. This one's pretty cool. Um, it's not. This is the transaction sheet or transaction search that I started putting together. And one of the things I can't do is I can't incorporate this, cannot incorporate it in Hexfire because I'll break it. And it's because there's too much data, you know, um, in there, and it just makes it so it's untenable. I just can't do it. But this is something that I am working on, right? So we're trying to get it nailed down. This one's pretty cool because it's updating now on an hourly basis. So you can see today is the 8th, right? Yeah, today's the 8th. You can see at the top here, these are transactions. This is kind of raw data, so it's not quite ready for anything else. But these are transactions that are taking place today, you know, and what they were. And so you see a lot of stake ends taking place. We actually have the timestamp. It's not just the date. Just for the sheet, I have it kind of cleaned up a little bit. So you can see some different things here. You can. One of the big things I added was the price of hex, or excuse me, of Ethereum at the time. I can also add the price of hex. Um, but we can see for the transactions, what the TWAP was for the day for ETH. And apparently the Etherscan IO uses the close price of each day for the when you look at like what did it cost on the day of, it's using that. Um, so here you can come in and do some different things to look at the transactions, and see what the price of ETH was on a particular transaction. You could put your own transaction numbers in. You could put a wallet in, like these are all the transactions for that Godwill address we were looking at. And you can do that. You can say, show me, all the stake starts in that time frame. It's a work in progress, right? Um, and it's a little laggy even here because of the amount of data. So putting in information is good. To be able to see that. This is one that I like. What's another one? Another one. Let's see if you guys see this racetrack. This one's a fun one. I was on with Maddie a couple weeks ago, and we started talking about this. But we had been on for so long, man. I was so tired. I was like falling asleep. I started seeing things. So this one's pretty cool because you come in with an address, and it's an illustration to kind of show um, how what this wallet has done. So this is Godwill, the infamous 416, stake of 2020, right? And at that time, he had picked up 210,000 T-shares. And so what it shows is the increase and decrease of T-shares over time up to the end of 22. right? And what's allocated to his wallet. It's showing the change, it's showing his percentage and where he ranks, and he's a winning whale, of course, because he's a whale and he's winning, and he's winning, and has been a whale the whole time. He was born a whale and is still a whale. So this is just some of the fun things. All right, let's see. Yeah, Frank, I'm so super conservative on stuff. It's hard for me to, you know, glom on to $30 hex, but I absolutely support that it can go there. I do think it could hit $30. And if you can look at other past cryptos like you mentioned with BTC, um, there's no reason it couldn't go up very high. So not financial advice, not um, you know, not assuming that I'm going to be correct, but just looking in generalities. So I kind of look at what ETH did, and I applied what ETH did last run, and it did a 50x, like a 53x ETH from the bottom to to this last top. And so I think it's pretty strong chance, right, that if everything works the way we think it works, and there's no surprises, that we'll see something like a 50x on Hex at a minimum, at a minimum. And I don't think that there's, again, who knows? I don't know. Maybe there's a XRP like event or some bullshit, but makes us so that doesn't happen. But in possibilities, I think that's a good possibility. And then the other end of it is I don't discount. You could see something like 100x or 500x or going all the way to $30. What's $30 from here? Anyways, because you said 30. Let's just assume 5 cents, right? So 30 divided by 0.05. I mean, that's a 600x. So is it possible? Yeah, it's crypto. It's possible. Yeah, I can see your point of view. So I certainly wouldn't listen. If it goes to 30, 29, $30, I'm good. I'd be happy with that. And we'd be helping a lot of people, helping a lot of people. So on some of the other stuff, let's see, I'll show you something else I got. Let's see. I'll show you this screen here. Sometimes I feel like I'm not working on enough stuff, and then other times I feel like I'm working on too much stuff. Just for the purposes of showing how an animation might work. This is not complete and it is incorrect. It's incorrect. What I'm trying to do though is I'm trying to um, depict visually the bow wave. So you know how we talk all the time. Let me just make sure this is being sent up to. Ah, I lost you guys. Where are you? I need to make sure that it's in the right place. Oops, I had the wrong window open. Um, all right, so what I was looking for is to be able to visually see the bow wave because we get these questions all the time. Like you go to Hex Vision, and even if you go to Hexfire, we can look at a Hexfire too. Um, we always see this large amount of hex ending in the next 30 days. And what's happening is people are restaking and they're stripping their yield. And then intermixed on any given month, of course, are not new stakes, but old stakes that have been around for a while are finally coming to their end. It creates kind of this bow wave effect. And what I'd like to be able to do on this bottom chart here is to be able to show from a time perspective, at that time, um, what the bow wave looked like. So if you went all the way back to December, and again, these are incorrect. This is me learning how this works. Um, but going all the way back here to December, looking forward, I'd be able to see what the bow wave looked like. Now, right now, what it's doing is just adding up all the stakes ending in the next 12 months. And so that's incorrect. But this top one is fairly close to reality. And what it's showing is the total amount of hex so if you went back to January 2020, what's the total amount of hex ending in the next 30 days? July 2020, what's the amount of hex ending in August? That type of thing. So just trying to give you like a 30-day look ahead to see what this looks like over time. Um, I don't know, other than entertainment value and probably a little bit of discussion and onboarding. I'm not sure there's much use in having animation, but it was fun to do, you know, to kind of look at and see. Working on a couple other things with Axis and a few others to um, see if I can add some additional pizzazz to some of the charts and stuff. But again, this is something that I can't put on the original site, unfortunately. It's just how it rolled. Mostly because it's so a lot of times I'm hitting 100% on my CPU. Um, I'm gonna have to add some more cores, I think. Yes, yes. Let's see. We had gotten that one already. Yep, the 3x. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, so that was I did a video last week where I was looking at that. That is really crazy, what it could do. Now I limited my I'm gonna have to go change it, I think. I limited my Hadron ICOSA calculator to $10 hex, because in order to give people a full range of choices, I needed to give a set number of records, for them to choose from. And so it's kind of funny. Let me pull that up again. Let me go back over to L hex fire. So if I go to my this big, go to my hex to Hadron ICOSA. This is one of the things that um, is super bullish about the ICOSA system and Hedron. Um, political arguments aside, you know, and vampire attack discussions aside about it taking attention off the system and all that stuff. So you see my hex slicer up here at the top. I kind of made it inconvenient to see. You can actually change on this one the price of hex, and with it you'll see your ceiling prices adjust down here. And this is a little bit novel because it's including our share rate calculator as well. So the share rate calculation that I have is pretty unique. So it's including that as well into these numbers. You can come all the way down to 3 cents and see what it should be and go all the way up to $10. Um, but at $10 today, if we were at $10 hex, we would be something like $361 um, ICOSA as being the ceiling, not a price because it's not a price prediction. But there's been a discount to ceiling at times, and sometimes been a premium to ceiling. I don't see why it wouldn't stabilize at some point, um, so that we end up seeing, some factor of whatever the ceiling price is the reality for ICOSA. Now with ICOSA, because of the ability to sell back HSIs for ICOSA, I think you have a good chance for it to be always kind of being around its price, its ceiling price. But now let's fast forward end of 25, which might be the end of the next bull run. That's putting ICOSA ceiling up at $1,200. That's that's nuts. Just crazy. Same type of numbers with the Hadron. Hadron, 1.5 cents at $10, and we go all the way up to the end of the bull run at $10, 2.8 cents. So for something Hadron given away for free, which allows you to participate and earn yield and ICOSA, pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I do think there's some credence to the argument that because I have my eyeballs on this stuff, I'm not, I'm splitting my time a little bit, and so that is true. I think that's actually true. Um, but I can't. I'm not in charge of what you do. You guys do. So you want to go build a protocol and do the same thing. It's going to be out there, and I'm going to interact with it to the extent that I want to. Um, So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's about passive income. And just the craziness of this right now. Let's just look at our ceiling right now. So we're like 50% of our ceiling for ICOSA. The ICOSA ceiling is about $1.80 right now. And I know, guys, it's going to keep increasing. So maybe because I can remember when the ceiling was sitting around that 97 cent spot. And of course, I guess the price of Hex really affects it, and that's why. But you know, kind of thinking Hex will gradually go in the upwards direction, right? And so over time, you know, and then we'll until we see some of that moon math kick in. But that'll be pretty big. So yeah, yeah. What other comments? All right. There's still got about 18 of you guys listening in, so you got something else? I can throw it up here. I'll make a pitch. I'll show you the poll that I did before we close out on Patreon. Hey, Patrice, you know it, man. I love the moon math, man. I love it. I gotta, it's actually is helpful sometimes to have a little bit of that moon math going. It is, you know. I don't know if all things will happen, but it gets me excited sometimes, to see that. I mean, if you're just thinking all the time that, if you're always thinking kind of doom and gloom, you're not going to get, as much fun out of this as it could be. Let me stop this screen. Yeah, Frank, it's a calculation. The calculation is based on the amount of hadron that will be mintable for that stake, and it also includes a factor of the T-share rate. And so that's created. And so it comes up with, what's that value? And it's divided. There's a calculation on the screen here. You also go over to you can go over to the Hedron ICOSA chats, and they've got a nice tokenomics document that kind of explains it. But it's just simply a calculation. I think I included it below here. Let me see before we move on. Yeah, I didn't call it out as a calculation. Just basically explaining what the ceiling price is. That was kind of a new concept here when we were talking about it. Um, So the amount of ICOSA received for selling a hex, it's not staker instance, hex stake instance to the ICOSA contract, determined with a share rate. So it's the amount of, yeah, it's the amount divided by the USD, by the T share rate. And there's some other factors, like you get a bonus. So if it's a bonus stake, you get a little up. If it's a Quattro Cinco, you get a 10% bonus. So there's a calculation behind it. I didn't put it on the screen, unfortunately. Otherwise, we should be able to read it. I don't want to recite it offhand because I'll probably make a mistake about it. Yeah, yeah, sweaty. Yeah, that's a thing. I've been spending way too much time embroiled in crypto. But I'm semi-retired, right? So I do a little bit of work on the side, and then I'm doing a lot of work on the Hexfire site. I I enjoy it though, right? So that's the thing. Like even my work life. I can pull all-nighters on this stuff. And that's because it's my thing. That's what I like to do, right? Somebody else might like something else, a video game or something. They'll do all-nighters on that. Outside of the crypto world, right? So I focus on a couple different things, try to, mostly health and related type stuff if I can. Though I'm not very healthy. But as some of you may know, speaking of not being healthy, I'm a cigar guy, so I like cigars. So I'm into that a little bit. Um, Mountain biking goes hand in hand with cigar smoking because I get on my mountain bike and smoke my cigar. And you may laugh, but I've done that before. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But the thing is about something like that is you really need some oxygen. So yeah, that didn't last very long. I stopped doing that. Um, I am into intermittent fasting. Um, that's something that I found to be really healthy for me, not just from a weight perspective, though haven't followed very well the last year, but from an overall health perspective because of the health effects of fasting. So I've got a little bit of that going on as well. So I do that. Like I'm on a 24 type of schedule mostly, which is 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of mealtime, but or potential mealtime. But then sometimes I'm an OMAD guy, 1 meal a day, and then other times I'm 16/8, which is 16 hours of no eating and 8 hours of regular eating. And that's another fascinating topic because that's autophagy is part of that. Right? But then more work related ish. I probably lean pretty heavily towards financials and passive income generation, which again is kind of like being in hex. I mean, that's how I'm utilizing hex in the first place. Yeah, this is very true. That's a strategy, Patrice. I know you're very aware of it, and I'm working on mine as well. So one of the, I'm not like super maxi. I mean, I'm a maxi. If you ask me if I'm a maxi, I'm going to tell you that I am, and I'm right there. But again, I'm not going to not take advantage of certain things that might be flexible for me. So I think there is some advantage to being flexible with HSIs, right? So having an HSI and the fact that I could trade it or swap it to somebody else for value, um, or that I could sell it back to the contract is intriguing to me, right? For an emergency, that type of thing. But again, everybody picks their own way of doing things. you know. So, and I still have trouble explaining to people where the value comes from. And I mean, I think I know where the value comes from, but yeah, this is magical internet money to be sure. All of this. Number one question I ever get from anybody um, is, "Have you ever sold any? Do you ever get any real money?" Like they're incredulous that you actually can invest in crypto and then sell it. And I have to agree on the 1 cent hex. When I was building my ladder, now I really wish I had done what I said I was going to do um, in the early days, but I didn't. And what I said I was going to do is I was going to load up early on, like 1 million hex per year, and stake it out. And because I was in it day one, but I'm so incredibly conservative. I got burned so many times with things that when I was in the adoption amplifier for hex, I was doing $10 a day. You know, pretty crazy. So yeah, I'm happy with it. Believe me, I'm happy with it. I'm not unhappy about what's happened, but that's where I was. But anyways, when I was doing that kind of math, and even later on, I like to use the term "let your winners run." And so, out of all the things I had gotten into, Hex was one of the winners, one of the big winners. And by letting it run, that meant to me, to the extent that I had available assets, I wanted to go in deeper and with more. I did that. And so then what I did is I put that into, I use the number like 1 cent. And people may get bored of hearing me talk about this stuff, but um, as part of what we call FIRE, which is financial independence, retire early, um, I needed to figure out what a lot of money was to me. And I concluded that $20,000 is a lot of money. And so we came to that conclusion from a couple different angles. Where I live, I can buy a car for 20,000, good car for 20,000. People I know make $20,000 a year. I could pay a lot of stuff off with $20,000. I can pay for, I could pay for my housing in a year with $20,000. So there's a lot of things you do. So I concluded 20K is a lot of money. And so then when I was looking at my forecasting and hex staking ladders as I built them, and I think this still applies today, I used the current price, and then I also compared it to the 1 cent level. And so my objective was at that time, how much hex would I need to be staked? And I base this on estimates, to get enough yield that at 1 penny it'd be worth $10,000, that type of thing. And so, from that angle, I mean, that's pretty good, you know. And so even today, if somebody thought, hey, 20K is a lot, a 50x from $400. If somebody was coming in there doing a new ladder, a 50x from $400 is, 20K. And if you wanted 20K per year, you would stake the equivalent of hex that would give you that 20K per year each year, right? And you would do it in advance, and because you did it in advance, it'd be way cheaper than 400 times 15 years. But because 10 through 15, you get three times the value out of it, and you'd be able to you know figure out in a ladder how much you needed to stake, you know, and then have 20K a year. Now, a lot of people, they don't go that, they won't take a step because they're afraid or they're concerned that they're going to lose everything anyways. And that's fine. I mean, that's even more conservative than me, right? But then they're pushed to inaction. A lot of times, I think that decision is made based on, I'm not going to be a millionaire tomorrow, so screw it. I'm not going to be able to get a million this year, so screw it. I'm not going to be able to get a million by the end of the bull run, so screw it. when they kind of lose track of, hey, okay, sure, you want to hit it rich, but how about just improve your life, improve your family situation, by a small amount. You know, $400 ain't much to do that. It depends on the country too, and where you are, but I mean the U.S. anyways. Yeah, yep, yeah, yep, yeah, yeah. That's another one of those things. People definitely don't want to talk about that. Yes, what I have a picture of me doing that, but I, I, I don't know where it is, but I have a picture somewhere. But I don't do that very. I learned pretty quick that was a bad idea, but it was funny for the picture. Yeah, Patrice, yeah, that was a boon for the early stakers for sure to get that 10x on the multipliers. I mean, if I was actively buying in the auctions, I did buy a couple of 10x's. I'd be buying those like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, very good, Mudhog. Very good. Yeah, yeah. So that was the other thing that I did wrong in that period is I took my eye off the ball after day 40-ish, sometime around there. That was another thing that happened. But you live and learn. And I think I mentioned I maybe stopped in mid sentence. Let your winners run. Um, I got in the early days with Hex. Things went really great with that, right? But I kind of took my eye off the ball, and then because I was a noob, it's so funny. I'm pretty sure he doesn't remember it, but then in like July of 2020, I was up a lot. If you remember, the price went up quite a bit, and I emergency end staked. Yes, I did. I emergency end staked several stakes because I was a noob. I didn't understand what was going on, and I even sent a text to Richard thanking him because that was the most I'd ever made in an investment, in terms of percentages. And I was like all excited. I'm kind of embarrassed to tell that story, but it's true. That's what happened. That's what I did. Now I didn't end my position though. And then end of summer came and we got that uni and plus there were some things happening in the community. So I doubled down. Well, not exactly doubled down, but I went in with more, right? Went in for more before big payday. Um, Held off though until after big payday to go in even further, and that was a mistake. I should have gone sooner. But, again, the trader mindset that all of us have, which is kind of like normal people kind of think this way, as you got to wait for the low price. If I buy before big payday, it's going to be, don't do that. Wait until you see you get a better price. And yeah, I got a better price, but for some, depending on the time frame you're talking about, because we had that big dip. But I would have liked much better to have been just staked over big payday, you know, and taken full advantage of that. But it is what it is. So let your winners run mean to me is that the more the asset proved itself to me, the more solid I was into it, right? And so I like that part. Yep, yep. It is a crazy thing. There's definitely a bias to with it because initially when you look at it, you don't think a lot. I didn't think a lot of the yield, and but it's come to be that the yield is very big, you know, and so just didn't know how it was going to go. So yeah, it's nice to wake up, Robert, and be like, yeah, look at that payout. I got a bunch more. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Mudhawk. Man, it's crazy. So I would venture, based on my numbers, looking at dolphins. Never mind sharks. Dolphins. who were in early, particularly able to get the 10x's, you know, first off, they've got, upwards of 1,000 T-shares or more, and so they're earning quite a bit in terms of yield for Hex daily. And then if they did that, and most did, because if you look at the numbers, we can go do that too, I guess. You look at the numbers, you can see that when we look at all the Hex stakes that have taken place, how many of them did the 10x multiplier. And so even right now, let's clear this out. This is important because, again, remember, Hedron's a gift into the system, right? And so if we look at the number of stakes that are still open, got 429,000 stakes that are still open. And then if we do the Hadron launch bonus of 10, we've got almost 100,000 stakes that are still open that that have 10x multiplier on them. You know, so a lot of those folks who were dolphins did that, and so now they've got the 1,000 times 1,000. So 1,000,000 a day. At a minimum of Hadron, and to be able to do that with new stakes is very tough, right? And so then you have this psychosis going on, which basically gave people the opportunity to get into, again, another yield bearing kind of a asset that's all related to hex, right? So pretty cool there. It was, yeah, if somebody's to tell you, hey, listen, I'm into hex and I make, I'm making 250, $300,000 in yield and hex, and oh, they gave me this free thing, and I make 30,000, 40,000. I guess it'd be more than that, be like 60,000 a year, and hey, hedron, and then I can take the free hedron and stake it. It starts sounding a little ridiculous, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah, Mudhog, got it. Very similar. I think for me, I got sidetracked with stupid COVID. That was the big thing. Uh, yep, yep. Yield is like OT hours. I can see that. Yeah, I agree with you that we have to. But I think this is happening even now to other people in Hedron, and also coming into Hex new, right? They don't. There's no plan. And actually, probably the best thing to do is have no plan, just so you don't sit around trying to analyze for 3 months, what you're going to do if you want to participate. There's time to do things later, but yeah, there's some woulda, coulda, shouldas, like you know, some people were very regimented about what they did, and then others, like my stakes look like a scatter plot, like it'd be hard for me to reason with you why I made so many stakes the way I did and how I set them up and at what quantities. The big thankful thing I have is um, I don't think I went too low enough that it's going to hurt me. But what do I mean by too low? I don't think I ever staked less than 10,000 hex. Now remember, hex was cheap at the time, right? So it was a little bit, you know, to do. And so I don't think I'd do that again. I think I'd try to be at higher numbers. And but it's I guess the new guys could really, if they believed, if they made the decision and they had what they needed and they didn't, they weren't, always invest what you can afford and to lose, all that kind of thing. Um, the best way to do it is as soon as you make the decision would be to outlay the capital then, right then, and to do it at the numbers that you think you need to do. And then you build your ladder. And if you're, and then from there, what you'd be able to do is roll your ladder on. Let's say you just did it quarterly for sake of argument. You could roll your ladder every quarter, and you'd always be out quattro cinco into the future. So that might have been a really good strategy, but you could probably do that now without as much concern as back when Hex first launched. That's for sure. Yeah, free speech, and that would have been a supreme mistake if you had not engaged, right? It would have been terrible. So I'm glad that you did. Um, but we're all playing our own games. We're on our own journey, right? So new people, good for them to come in and experience what they need to experience. I mean, it. I do it too. I compare, but it's better sometimes not to try to compare to what the other guys did or got, and maybe instead focus on what you can get because you know the kind of yield that we get is pretty cool, right? That you can get, and so even within the hex system right now, being able to get 10%, on short stakes, pretty cool. I think that's awesome, considering you got nothing else. You don't have anything else that can give you that kind of yield. I mean, maybe some things are changing, but all right. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen this as a Patreon site, they have drives everybody there. Um, to that front side. But let's see here. What do we got for poll responses? Let's look. Let's see. So this is the poll I put up there. I think I also duplicated the poll. Um, I also duplicated the poll on Twitter in text and also in Telegram as a poll. I think I thought Patreon would just make it easy for people to come here and just vote whether they're members or not, because this is public. This post is public, and so they'd be able to come in and just vote on things. But apparently, it's not that easy to do. So we have to actually sign up or sign in some way. You don't have to pay, but I mean you have to sign in. So what I'm looking for is the poll data on what people are looking for. So it's good that it also brings that Patreon if people want to join that. Um, so what I was asking about the design is, what do people want to see? What do you want to see with the new Hex dashboard, and what's important to you? So if you see the poll on Twitter, or you want to go to the Patreon and do it there. It'd be easier for me if you did, but I'm going to collate the data that I get from Telegram, from Twitter, and do that. These are the top things that people in general are interested in. As far as dashboards. So is the data displayed clearly and efficiently? You know, when you look at the data, look at it, does it quickly jump out to you? It's kind of like the same as the first one, information quickly, clearly and efficiently kind of tied together. How current the data is, data latency. One of the other things is that the current Hexfire that I have is it's about a four hour refresh. So every 4 hours it refreshes. But in the new one, it's going every hour, and sometimes sooner than that. You know, trends and changes, space type stuff. Like you want to see a lot of stuff crammed into one space. Ease of use, drill downs. Ability to export data. That's the big one that I'm trying to get to. Is with the license situation that I have, I can't allow downloads. Like you can call me up and you can call me on Telegram, say, hey, can you get me a list of this or that? And I can shoot over that file. And I've done that a bunch for people, but I can't let you do it yourself because I don't, have an ID and password to get in. And it's not like it's tough to do because you could do it, but it'll cost, 10, $12 a month per person. So as a service, I can't offer that, but later on, maybe. And then personalized data dashboards. That's another one I'm interested in. Like was talking about this with somebody the other day. I'd like to have like a passive income screen where I can have all of my data about what I think is going on with all my stakes and all these different protocols. and and use that for planning purposes. So that's what's happening with that. Oh, this has been pretty cool so far, the Patreon. I really do appreciate you guys who've joined and have helped out by doing that. Um, it's been a learning experience. It's another piece of software to learn. But again, what I've been trying to do is add perks, right? So that I can do some different stuff, and then plus, a lot of the stuff that I work on, if you're here listening to this, you probably like it, right? But it's not for everybody. Right, not everybody wants that kind of detailed data. So it's kind of cool to have, you know, more of a curated group of people that are interested in the same types of things. Because when I'm planning, new apps or tech that we're going to put to use, yeah, it's different if I'm serving 10 people versus, unlimited people, right? And that's why I keep getting back to that Hexfire site and how it's set up, because that's set up so that anywhere in any country in the world, and even if you're not on this world, I suppose, but I'm guessing most people are here, you'd be able to access that data. And so we didn't have that in the beginning now, but now you can do that. A lot of cool stuff there, you know. So whether you want to kind of pick your staking and whether you want to pick your staking dates or restakes, or you want to see what the APYs are, that type of stuff, you can do that. And so that's very cool. Yeah, Robert, thank you. I appreciate that a lot, actually. It's been recommended to me a couple times that I go into voiceover, but I never did that. And I used to get that question a lot from people in work when I call like a new company or something. There'd be some woman there, get on the phone. Wow, it was funny as hell. My wife got a kick out of this. I had a couple people ask me if I did phone sex, which is not my intent. That's not my intent, but it was kind of funny that happened. My in my younger days. And no, I don't have an OnlyFans, so don't anybody ask. It's not happening. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So I really kept you guys a long time, and now I can see why some of these streams go so long. We're coming up on almost 2 hours. Um, let's take one more round. I'll take a round to look, see what we got going on with Hex price real quick. So staying pretty good at around 54 point, well, 5.4 cents. Um, I know it's not healthy, but man, do look at the damn chart a lot. I do that. I suppose you guys do it too. It's kind of hard not to. I hid my trading view somewhere. I'd have to pull it up. Pull it up again. There we go. Take a look at that trading view in the background. All right, so we pulled back a little bit. That's, that's all right. That's to be expected. I think it's kind of a good thing as we go on a run up that be the case. I would like to see this keep going for sure, for sure. But reality is, you know, even though this is all the way back in 20 before a big payday, you have ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. Got to have pullbacks, man. Otherwise, things blow off. And usually, if we go too high on any asset, the pullback is going to be much more dramatic. Um, but uh, but yeah, that's pretty decent. And for those, I did have a few people ask me about this. For those who were, sitting back here saying, "Hey, I'm going to sell and wait for a number," they kind of lost the. Oh, they kind of lost their their ability to get that gain. My camera's in the way. I had to move up. But if we look back here at that 2.0 level, that 1.9 level, we had a good couple days, right? We're down there. If that was where you were coming in, that's almost a 200% increase. Very nice. Very, very nice. And then the other one to look at, let's look at Hex Daily Stats. Are we sitting there? Um, for the guys thinking about getting a staking, boy, this I know it's driving FOMO for me. I mean, we went from like 750, $700 to 1,300. I think it went down that low. And in terms of T-share price, man, it's getting up there again. That price penalties today are pretty good amount at 1.7. I do try to figure out sometimes why that's happening, but it's kind of like shouting into the wind. You just don't know. Uh, Number to watch here, guys, is liquidity for Hex. Okay, this is where the game is being played. I think right now, um, it just is right. People put up liquidity, they take down liquidity. Don't know if this is buy the rumor, sell the news deal because people are moving liquidity and on the idea that the V3 is synonymous with launch, and then they expect that maybe the snapshot will be taken. I don't know exactly what's happening, but I can see that we went down from last night, 70 million, 60 million, 50 million. Yeah, now we're down to 38 million X, which means we've got some volatility. All right. And that volatility, well, it doesn't mean we have volatility. What it means is there's less available, right? And since there's less available, um, that buys or sells can move the price a lot quicker through those levels. And so let's see what happens. I mean, it could be fun. That's why we're saying is it goes up, goes down. Wow, that was pretty. I bet you that was pretty enlightening to everybody. Uh, Crypto prices go up and they go down. All right. So, any final questions? Put them in the chat, and then we're going to wrap. Open so many screens. Ooh, there we are. Yeah, bonuses are bonuses, man. And yeah, bye $700. That's it. All right, guys, do me a favor. I know Naeem put it there. Hit the like, share, subscribe. I appreciate it. Trying to get this. Trying to get the YouTubes up to 1,000 viewers or 1,000 subscribers at some point here. We'll be sitting at we're about 256. So I made some progress recently. We'll keep doing that. Oh, is it popping again? Is it popping again? Let's see. I know we were just looking at it. Yep. Oh, yeah. Going up a little bit more. You guys can't see my screen, but I put on the 15-minute. Yeah, so it's popping up a little bit. It's coming back. That's to be expected. All right, Red Scroll. We'll see you later. All right, if you guys are interested in the Patreon, I encourage you to go over and visit. At the very least, if you can get to one of the polls and answer that would be good. That help me with the design stuff for the pro site. And with that, you guys take it easy. You have a great day. Today is a Wednesday, right? Hump day. And let's keep going. See you later.